We're just gonna for what I'm grateful for, and I really am, because no one had, we didn't have to be here on today.
Amen. Amen.
But I made it a choice. I made for it to be embedded in my heart, Lord, if you allow me, because that the service in which you've placed in my hands, that I'll be a good steward.
Yes, yes.
And the fact that, it doesn't matter, and it's something about, when you're a pastor, or, when you're a pastor. I didn't say preacher, because a preacher don't have the obligation of a pastor.
That's right. Amen. That's right.
But when you're a pastor, you see God speaks and things are different, and you always want the best for God's people, even if they don't want the best for you. This is true. I mean, it's just true. Because you must understand, you're dealing with all sorts of spirits.
All sorts. Yes, sir.
And if the focus was on what people, how people me, or what they, I can care about, tell y'all all the time, a man does not impress me. I'm not impressed about what man has. I'm always like this, I'm optimistic. Well, if God can do it for you, if it was God.
That's right. Come on now.
See, don't be impressed, because you don't know who's doing what for anybody. So don't always be impressed about, because somebody has something that you don't. You don't know how they got that. And I'm also like this. Okay, you got a big car, but you got to pay the bill, not me. So unless you just paid it off, you got a monthly note that you got to pay.
That's right.
Why am I going to be impressed with that? So,
That's the truth, Pastor.
So you all have to understand. You have, in the book of Malachi, first Malachi 1, first chapter 1, verse 6. Malachi. In Malachi, second chapter, first verse. And then just mark the book of Genesis. And the word of the Lord reads as thus. A son honors his father, and a servant his master. If then I am the father, where is my honor? And if I am master, where is my reverence? Says the Lord of hosts. To you priests who despise my name, yet you say, in what way have we despised your name? You offer defiled food on my altar, but say, and have we defiled you? By saying, the table of the Lord is contemptible. And when you offer the blind as a sacrifice, is it not evil? And when you offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it then to your governor. Would he be pleased with you? Would he accept you favorably, says the Lord of hosts. But now entreat God's favor, that he may be gracious to us. While this is being done by your hands, will he accept you favorably, says the Lord. Malachi 2 and 1. And now, O priests, this commandment is for you. If you will not hear, and if you will not take it to heart, to give glory to my name, says the Lord of hosts, I will send a curse upon you. Priest, pastor, I will send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yes, I have cursed them already, because you do not take it to heart. Behold, I will rebuke your descendants and spread refuse on your faces. The refuse of your seeds, the one will take you away with it, and one will take you away with it. Then you shall know that I have sent this commandment to you, that my covenant with Levi may be continued, says the Lord of hosts. The book of Genesis. Genesis 2. Let's go Genesis 3. I go Genesis 3. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord of God had made. And he said to the woman, has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. And then the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die, for God knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and then you will be of the tree of good and evil. For those of you that's in the balcony, and please forgive me for not welcoming you like we normally do. But the effects of the tree of good and evil, isn't that something that we hear that word good again? What is it about that good that God is trying to get across to you and I? That just hearing it once is just not enough. I can't hear anybody just hearing the word good, because we have this interpretation of the word good. And it's amazing because everything starts in, like I say, everything, the effects of the tree of good and evil. And when we read about with the things that I've just read about regarding in the book of Malachi, and how offerings and things of that nature, how it matriculated from the tree of good and evil. In a sense that there must always be an origin of any and everything that we do.
Yes.
Everything that you and I are doing, we don't just do it. There is a reason why we do what we do and where it derived from. Things don't just pop up, but they derive from somewhere. The problem is that we never give it any thought. We just always trying to contribute things that, well, I'm an original. No, you're not an original. The Bible declares that there's no new thing up under the sun. Even to the point where people say they discovered. Well, if you discovered, that means it was there.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you discovered something, that means it was there. You didn't discover it, it's just the fact that it was there. You just found it. It's not a new discovery, it's just something that you just found. You can't say based upon influence is conceived from the tree of good and evil. And we all must understand that influence, and now the Spirit of the Lord said, influence is a master to most and a slave to some. Okay, well, let me break this down. Because you must understand, influence can either be on something, for the lack of better words, positive or negative. Based upon who understands. If someone does not understand, let's just say we're in this world now, because we hear a lot about this thing going about trafficking and all this other kind of stuff that's going on in this dispensation. Now, the only reason why this thing, and it all derived from the fact that before I even get there, let's understand that Eve, now you must understand, God told Adam and Eve in the garden, because I'm going to show you how this thing started from and how it derived from there. When God said do not touch, that it was in the midst, but you must understand, good and evil was a tree, and good and evil had a fruit. Never to say what type of fruit. That means we digest whatever is the substance of what it was. And we become, which means we become connected, because just like today, that when we eat certain fruit, it has some type of biological, some type of chemistry connection that our bodies react to either positively or negatively. So therefore, God has said, do not touch. Put your hand on it, taste, and definitely don't touch it. But you must understand, because you would not be able to, we at that point in time, even Adam would may contain the substance of that fruit. We couldn't handle it. So in an effort, you must understand, we were in the garden at that time. I say we because we're the descendants. We were in the spirit, was in the garden at the time, that everything that we need was already given unto us. It was there. So therefore, we had no need of anything else. So they say, if God said not to touch it, there must have been a reason.
Yes, sir.
But at that time, you must understand, so we understand the story, that this is, and not only that, you must understand, influence also was in the garden. Influence is just as old as the Bible. It didn't just happen because we gave it a word, but it existed because we named it. No, it existed back in biblical days in the garden. If it was not so, the adversary, which was the serpent, because the Bible declares that he was had trickery upon him. He tricked Eve into saying, oh no, God did not say that you will surely die. He did not mean that. If it was a fruit, that means it's edible, you can eat it. He just didn't want you, because you must understand, this was the attribute of Satan before he was kicked out of heaven. He wanted to be like God. Yes. He wanted to be like God, so therefore he deceived and said, yo, surely he know that you will be like him. So go ahead, it's okay to eat. So therefore she allowed, and she heard it, but the Bible declares that God said, well, if you eat upon this or take it, touch it, you shall surely die. It doesn't mean that necessarily a physical death, but a spiritual death. So at that point, we were kicked out. But must understand, the Bible never said that you must follow me spiritually. The Bible never said that the existence of the tree of good and evil diminished in the garden.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You must understand, once somebody partakes of something, it becomes a part of who they are. The effects, because it was spiritual, because God said not to touch, taste, or nor even smell. Don't even come near it. But you must understand the effects of the tree of good and evil had already penetrated Adam and Eve. So therefore, if it lived, it never died, it was still living. Okay, we go. Spiritually, you must understand. So therefore, because by then when they had, you must understand the influence was already in Eve and Adam. That's why God kicked them out of the garden. They were already affected. You cannot stay in the garden when you're contaminated. Now you're contaminated with good and evil. Understand the knowledge, because positive and negative influence based upon those that are being influenced. Either you understand that you're mastering and know you're using what influence you have for good, or you're being a slave to influence and being used. Influence is a tool. And if it's not understood, you can be manipulated. And that means influence is your master. But when you understand who you are and whose you are, the power of influence becomes a slave to you. Many of us now in this dispensation have been under the form of trickery and have been manipulated, the mastery of influence. Having us think that we're doing things on our own when in effect we're being influenced. Well, Pastor, what does it have to do with you must understand. So where we find ourselves now, because of you understand now that influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character or the behavior of someone else. That's good. Because you don't understand, I can get you to do what I want you to do, and you think that you're choosing to do it on your own.
That's good.
That's right.
Point of question. I don't know where he is, but because of look how the influence of Kanye West is having. So y'all don't want to talk to me.
Yes, sir.
It's just I'm not going to go into your field of expertise and claim that I know how to be a songwriter and do all this other stuff. You would get offended if I came in your arena and start trying to think it because I said a word or two. So what makes you think that I'm allowing you to come in where you did no study, you have not set, or you have not never set yourself up on the authority of Christ Jesus, but yet still you gonna walk in and think you got Y'all don't want to talk to me, but look at the influence So now he's become the master over so many of our millennials and young people. And then those are saying, oh, he's a, no, you must understand. There's order in God's house. There's order, there's structure in the spirit realm.
Yes, sir.
Because you think, but you've never been trained. You're a wild ass out there. See, but y'all must understand when you don't know, well, he's doing such a why? Because he says one or two words. Right. It's the influence. Yes. But those that understand should put a yield on them. Not in here.
Not in here.
That's right.
And if you get offended, well, you are who you say that you are. Just find that door and exit like you came in. You must understand it's about the souls of people. It is not trying to please your flesh. But we must understand when we don't understand, so it's no difference. You must understand how the connection of the tree, the knowledge of good and evil still exists today. It is not just because the tree was in the garden, but the tree had been eaten and now the spirit has been released into the earth realm. So like we hear in the book of Malachi, how now the misunderstanding, like the Bible says, well, how does that, well, this is the effect of the tree, because now a son honors his father and a servant his master, if then I am the father. Where is my honor? Why is it that now that we treat God's house dishonorably? How do we do that? Well, because you've allowed negative influence, allow you to say what you were doing out there in the streets is still okay. Even though you know where you are and who you belong to, you bring filth into God's house, which means that you dishonor him, thinking that you offend him not. You would rather do and make sure you appeal to that on the outside, as opposed to coming in and making sure your dusty, rusty hips are in order when you cross over the threshold. But because you do not, you allow the influence on the outside to be more than the influence on the inside, which God, see, you don't understand. That's why I said we've allowed the entrance way into God's house to be defiled and watered down, because we don't build up, we don't pray, because when individuals cross over this threshold, they should feel the presence of the Most High God. And understand there's something about this atmosphere which is different.
Yes.
Because if I don't believe, because co-pastor was talking about earlier when she was up with her testimony about faith. Faith is releasing it out of your hands and putting it in God's hands. But because it's like the dishonor, God is saying, no, there's too much dishonor that is going on in his house. And then the thing about it is that we're doing it thinking that we're doing it undercover because of the influence of the good and evil, which you don't understand, because there's no good that dwelleth in man. Good is a representative when there's something possible, not something that we take in account as something that we can do, perform, but we can't. And try to take credit. Good does exist, but good has its place. Not for recognition's sake, because we cannot handle that. Because we have a tendency to think that because if we receive too much recognition, that it is us doing it, and we forget to give God the glory. Because the Bible declares, exalt others higher than yourself. Good will have you and lead you to believe that it is you that's doing everything. And you begin to exalt yourself, which means and also you become you open up the door for idolatry, because then you begin to praise yourself.
Jesus.
But we don't see, because we don't understand and for the tree of good and evil. So it finds, God says in the book of Malachi, this is what happens. We begin to, when we honor, we forget who it is that we honor. And first of all, the honor begins. This is the temple of the Spirit of which Christ Jesus dwells within us, our bodies.
Yes.
Which is a temple. How do we dishonor him or say that we're someone who we say that we're not? Because on the inside, when we cross over the threshold, we want to be like this, dressed up on the outside, but our inside is defective. And we've already dishonored God. So what makes you think that you're going to cross this threshold? You can't put out what's not on the inside of you. true anointing cannot be duplicated.
It can't be.
Because it has a tendency, because God, when it's confronted by the real deal, the real McCoy, then this is the thing, what they told me, it's amazing because it said, and this is what Satan does. I was like, okay, Lord, let me try to get this. The enemy has a, we don't know. Okay, you don't understand, and I know, so I'm going to use what you say you don't understand against you. The knowledge of good and evil. Because if you're afraid to confess to yourself, how can deliverance enter in when you don't even want to confess to yourself that when you get around individuals, as opposed you don't want to be the outsider. Oh, hey, look, if it don't hurt me, hey, look, I don't know. I told you all before about being peer pressure. Ridicule is adult peer pressure. Many of us can't stand the ridicule of adulthood. And the adversary understands that. So you're prime candidate because he understands. The truth shall set you free. But we don't truly understand and we don't really want to receive. No, be honest with yourself because the adversary understands. Because it's what we're dealing with now are just attributes of what has been released in the atmosphere from the tree of good and evil. If the tree has not been found, it's still alive because the spiritual connotation of the tree and what it represents, we carry it around with us. So every time, and it's amazing that Satan understands where I'm going to get this individual because they're going through something, but they don't want anybody to know. So I'm going to use it against them. As opposed to the Bible declares that we're supposed to give God praise and speak those things out, testimony, say what's going on. But because we don't do it, the adversary, then he sends someone with negative ones around you on your low self. When you're on a low level, the highs and lows, lilies in the hills in the valley. So while you're in the valley, he sends one of his representatives to attack you and influence you to doing something that you know that is wrong. But the manner in which he uses and sends them is appealing, and it comforts your lowness. To get you to do something, whereas he places you in a position. And once he places you in a position of shame, he keeps you on the outside because you're too shameful to come in because he already knows that you're not going to tell. He already knows that you're not going to tell because he had got you thinking that they're going to look down on you already down. How's someone going to look down when you're already down? But he talks and he speaks because he's allowed influence negatively to enter into your psyche. Or they're going to talk about you. They're not going to accept you. Or you don't want to go over there to that church because you know they think they this and they that. No, you be honest with what's going on with you because life is in the Word. And if you believe that the ministry that the Lord has sent you to is a truly representation of who Christ was in the earth realm, it's only going to make you stronger. Because you are connected to the lifeline that's connected to the lifeline. They don't want to talk to me. It is not the fact that you must understand that it's the church. You must understand the adversary is still playing on you because of the shame that for whatever reason you encountered and got you in a position of lowliness. Sends in representatives that are working for the adversary to reinforce your lowliness disguised of influence, because it's easy to get someone when they're low than to get them attacked when they're in a place of highness. You're not going to sneak up on somebody that's on the high. It's more abundant to attack the low than it is high, because you have more that are on the low state of life, and it's easy to consume and get into what they think that they're doing and keep them out there because of shame. And in actuality, all the adversary is doing is reinforcing your shame to the point where you're so disconnected, you just say, well, it doesn't matter. You get to a point to say it doesn't matter because I've been doing this so long, I don't know how. I've been into this so long, I don't know how to come out of it. And then you must understand that the adversary still works the same. There's nothing new. The separation is what he does. He does that when you must understand. That's the same thing that is also the same way that the adversary attacks. Spiritual is what he does naturally. He gets you and starts to appeal into you, even in a low state, and then he separates you. He gets you isolated from your family, spiritual family, and your natural family. And he begins to work on your psyche. And he works on your emotions. He doesn't say it's like the Stockholm syndrome. To the point where you become more wanting to do more for your attacker or whatever the case may be. You become more connected to that because you feel they understand me now. So it's like the Stockholm syndrome that we understand that in the natural, that the victim becomes more accustomed to the functions of the one that's victimizing them, and then they get to a point where to the point where you want to. I don't know if his allegation is true or not, but the two females that are saying no, this and that, and he didn't, and they want to stand on you all catch it and want to back him up. Stockholm syndrome. I'm isolated to the point where I know this is all I'm hearing. And don't think that it wasn't strategically laid out, because the adversary, what he does is strategic.
Yes, sir.
It's a plan that he does. The Bible declares he seeks, it goes back and forth, seeking whom he may devour. He comes not but to kill, steal, and to destroy. He comes not but to kill, steal, and destroy. If I can destroy your life from that which God has ordained it to be, I've done my job. I can attack you on your lowliness and keep you from that which actually that you've been introduced as your outcome, that you may have life and have it more abundantly. Where is it that you've read that Satan says he comes to give you life and give you life and give it more abundantly? How do we get that understanding that he can keep me out of the house of the Lord, to the point of those that are infused and engrafted in the house of God and hear from God, that may deliver me? All I have to do is overcome my shame.
Come on.
That's the only thing from keeping me from deliverance, is overcoming my shame. And God will restore me and set me back on my rightful place. So that means, but because I don't believe it, because I got it all twisted up, but thinking that I done got attached, just thinking that what I do is good. There's a fine line between good and evil, because it only makes a difference when you can distinguish between the difference. And so many cannot distinguish between what is good and what is evil. Because evil can represent itself as being good, and we accept that it's being good. Therefore, when that happens, we're drawn into the evilness disguised as good. So therefore, we get into place. That's how we become shameful, because after we realize and wake up and we get close to someone that has the anointing that says what you're doing is wrong, and then boom, our eyes are open, shame appears. So therefore, because sometimes, so therefore we will stay away because the effects of the tree, man, I'm almost done, but we must understand in 1 Corinthians, the Bible declares in 15, it said bad company is an influence, corrupt good.
Yes.
But because we never attribute to that and think that we separate, understand this, the origins of the Bible still continuously through the end of the Bible. We just have to know how to see it and what is being spoken, because the knowledge of the tree and good and evil, it didn't end in the garden. It did not stop there because they were kicked out and we think that it was a fruit tree. Well, how many understand just think that when you see one tree, that's the only tree that exists?
That's good. That's good. Right? Come on. That's good.
There are apple trees all over the world. There are pear tree, pomegranate, whatever you want to call it, trees all over the world. So what makes you think that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil stayed in the garden? Spiritually. And the Lord said the Spirit of the Lord, he said something else, and I thought I wrote it down because I tried to, when I hear him speak, I think I wrote it on something else. I think it went something to point to the fact that we're like most of us. There's some like unwatered. Oh, here it is. Sometimes in our infancy, and infancy does not mean of age.
That's right.
Okay, so understand infancy. You could be 60, 70 and still be in the infant stage.
Yes, sir.
Infancy does not mean is not of age, but of understanding. We continue sometimes in an unwatered seed state. That means you can't. A tree cannot grow. A seed cannot grow until the water. Stop watering, stop growth.
Yes.
That's true. That's true.
And some of us sometimes the adversary has found out, because in the tree of good and evil has found out, we think that we attribute ourselves because our status in life, our status being of age, that we're out of infancy stage, and sometimes we try to
Understanding. Yes, sir.
we overestimate ourselves as being something based upon our age, and we want to have people assume that we know because we should be at it. We found out because of shame, really be honest with ourselves, but we know that we don't know what we say that we know because of our age dictates that we should know. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
Our age dictates that we should know, but because of the shame, we won't acknowledge, say, and be honest and say we don't know. So we find ourselves in bondage. So now we have to perpetrate doing and saying something or knowing something, but we have no knowledge because we're still in a state of infancy.
Jesus.
So that's where the enemy comes in. Y'all already see. So we began to come in. We come into the church. We come and we pollute. We come and pollute, and we do those things that's dishonorable and despicable unto God. Because we give, and he says, how can you honor your father and you bring this crap in here? Crap being, you cross over this threshold with this crap on the inside of you and saying that you're honoring me for who I am, but you're honoring me with crap. It is what it is. The Bible declares the truth shall set us free. And it also declares you can't serve God and man the same way. You can't do it. But now we've got it confused, and we've forgotten who we are. And we've forgotten how to distinguish between what's good and evil, the knowledge. I know this is good for my spirit to do, not for me to get recognition, because all recognition I'm going to give because of who I am. I'm going to give all recognition back unto God without anybody having to say anything to me. Because I understand who I am and who I am.
Yes.
Good and evil will allow you to keep it to yourself.
Yes.
And then this is the deceitful part. You want others to think that it's you. The deceitful aspect is, you see how it's matriculated and it continues to go on. Because you want to think you won't give God the glory. You want to think of, well, that's just like when I said about the dream and vision. Your dreams start to open up and come real to you where it can be attainable based upon the house where you are that has a vision. That God says fulfill the vision because you're directed to your vision, to the vision of the house. But we separate that vision and take the dream. So therefore, because the dream will attribute everything that you got back unto you and not to God.
Jesus.
That's good.
Because you begin to say, I did this. I did this. I did this. You mention God and say, because he showed me. But then you say, I did this. This was me. So God gets no recognition. And then he doesn't get any recognition because then also his house suffers because that which your dream is giving you financially, you don't give anything back to. You say, how do I dishonor God? How is it? Because you must understand sin would keep you separated from God. So therefore, even the things that you know though you had started doing prior to you having a vision, having your dreams manifest, and once you start seeing your dream manifest, your disconnection began. Okay, y'all just do it.
That's so good, God. It's true, too.
Yes.
So in my closing, and understand this, with the knowledge of good and evil, all the calamities that we see now is a tribute to what was released in the garden.
Yes, sir.
All what we know, what we see now is all contributed from what was released, the effects of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because had that not been taking place, we would be in heavenly bliss.
Yes.
Because everything was set up for us. Everyone would live with no complaints and none. Heavenly bliss. Everything that we just wave and hey, how you doing, neighbor? This and that.
Yeah, right.
You need some food? Come get it.
Yeah.
No cost. See, y'all don't want to talk to me. But because of what had happened and because the influence now and the adversary know because this is what he deemed, this is what he wanted to do in heaven, it's been released in the earth realm. So now we have to contend with that. And so in our contending, we become contemptible in giving God what's due him. We listen to things that we should not be listening to. We allow the effects of the adversary, which shame, because we serve a God that has delivered us from shame. But when you allow, and it doesn't matter, influence, and you must understand, influence is what is like a shapeshifter. You never know how it's coming.
Yes, sir.
Influence also influence because you must understand, we speak a lot of things that we think we don't speak, that the adversary has his imps to listen out for. Why that same person keep coming around me? Why I always attract this? And why these type of jobs always come? Why okay, because you release that. And because you release that, his imps picked up on that. So therefore, they come dressed up in the manner in the form of light, or whatever the form that you think your inner man that you don't tell anybody about. You think about it, you dwell on it. And then they come into fruition. A lot of things that you all have been given as far as power comes up negatively but you don't recognize it.
Yes, sir.
And when it manifests and it consumes us, the adversary is saying, oh, I got him now. That's influence.
Yes, it is.
And because we don't know the difference, it consumes us to the point where it takes us and now it controls us because now the influence is our master as opposed to being our slave. But we serve a God that and just like what he had caused, what was caused in the garden, then when it was caused, God has allowed us through his son Christ. And in essence, a lot of things that are opened up that should be closed.
Jesus.
We have so many we have so many spiritual holes in us that needs to be plugged up. That's negative and positive, but the negative supersedes the positive. But in the book of Matthew 7:14, narrow speaks about the gate. So we must understand, I don't believe, these things are taking place really deep down. I don't think those that say we believe really believe. The Bible declares that fear is the beginning of wisdom. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
Yes, sir.
And it pays. I don't understand, but we read in the book of Malachi what God is pleased with and what he's not pleased with. And how it affects us. And what we should be with, what we really hold dear to our hearts, we don't. I'm just at a point now, I would rather, have a life that's pleasing unto God. And that doesn't mean that it's boring, because my life is fulfilled.
Yes, yes, yes.
Minus all the foolish drama. I'm just not for that unnecessary drama. I just can't.
Yes, sir.
How is it that you can just, be comfortable with going through drama all the time? Heartache. When God says, well, I can't, you ain't have life and have it more abundantly. That means pulling you out of that foolishness.
Yes.
The enemy will have you living a foolish life. At point blank, but when you begin to see, you keep yourself away from that foolishness. Amen.
Amen.
My time is up.